are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Bringing you the highest vibes.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please check your ideas and opinions at the door?
This is TwinFlame Divine Fire.
I say check it at the door advisedly because you can pick it up again when you go out if you feel unsafe without it.
Coming at you on a Sunday afternoon.
All there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying, I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it.
Right here on Truth Frequency Radio.
The only thing that will solve stuff is by understanding who you truly are, working out what you truly want, living from the heart, and structuring a framework in life so that you live your passion.
Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Hello and welcome to the shore. How you doing today? I'm Alan.
I'm Sandra.
And we hope you're doing well. We really do. Boy, a little bit of a cool down here in the Pacific Northwest, huh?
No sunshine today, folks.
Yeah, there ain't no sunshine. I know. I do a little Bill Withers here. Now. You don't want me doing that, man. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, we're so happy to have you with us today. We always look forward to being with you on Sunday. And, you know, we just enjoy what we do because we get such cool people on here.
We do. We meet such amazing people.
I know, right? I know. And speaking of that, before we get started any further, wanted to let you know two things. Our call-in number, if you'd like to be a part of the show today, is 1-833-TFR-LIVE. That's 833-837-5483. And the show today is not being brought to you by Ray's Fish and Chips, 115 Houghton Green Road, Manchester. I tell you what, when I go over to Manchester, I'm going to check these guys out. I was reading their reviews this morning, and they're good. They are good, man. I didn't see a bad review on there. It got 5 stars out of 5 stars. So anyway, yes, today's show not being brought to you by Ray's Fish and Chips in Manchester, England. I don't know.
He was giggling sitting in front of the computer this morning.
I know. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, I might get over to Manchester. I got to check these guys out, man. You know, do a little recon before we get over there.
He never fails to make me snort at least once a day.
I think I'm getting our guest here a little bit, too. I hear something going on over there. I don't know what it is. I hope we can't hear Mum from here. I don't know. You never know. She's a good on-site producer.
But I love Mum's laugh.
I know. Mum's awesome, man. I wonder if she's wearing, do you think she's wearing her producer wig today?
I don't know.
She might be. I don't know. Might have to have Scott take a picture and send it to us later if she is. I don't know. So I tell you what, you know, if you're looking around today, I mean, you know, you just can't help but notice unless you have your head in the sand that there's a lot of weird crap going on. There's a lot of weird stuff. And our guest today, Scott Harrison, we came across him quite accidentally, and I got to read his bio. I love his bio because Scott has never done a bio. Scott is he's just one of the guys. I mean, I can honestly see that back in the day when I was out running around doing my thing, I can see Scott and I being really good friends because we would have gotten into all sorts of trouble together, I'm thinking. Scott is a self-described alien, which even by his own admission is a little bit of an odd claim since he doesn't really believe in aliens. But here he is. He's an alien on a planet that he wasn't born on, living in a world that he barely recognizes anymore, barely knows. And he was born on a planet called Earth in the outskirts of the Milky Way galaxy on the Sagittarius arm. And now he lives in the planet called Earth near the center in the Orion Spur on the Orion arm, which wasn't an arm in the old world. It was merely a belt. And pretty similar to Earth in many ways. And I think we can all identify with this, or similar countries, similar flags, brands. but very different in so many ways. Scott's heart is in the center of his chest instead of on the left side, which I'm identifying. When I first read his bio, I was kind of like, what? And then I started reading a little bit more, and it's just like, yeah, okay, I think I'm starting to understand this, and that's scaring me. His stomach is under his lungs, his kidneys have moved, his liver has grown and split into two parts, and so many anatomical changes, and he is spending his life now investigating this new world, and I think, like so many of us, looking for a way back to the people that he misses and loves so much. Scott Harrison, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you very much. What a lovely introduction as well. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Mum's not got the wig on, though, by the way.
Yeah, hey, we're not getting through this show without getting Mom involved. I mean, that's all there is. So how are you doing today, Scott?
I'm really good, thank you. And in fact, I'm a lot better than I've been. For the last week or so, I've really felt disorientated and just not with it at all. You know what I mean? I just don't feel grounded. Was one of the words somebody gave to me the other day, actually, when I was talking, and they said, "You're not grounded." And I think that's exactly how I felt all week. But feeling a little bit more today. It's exactly a week since we had a huge shift, and I've just been unsettled since that, to be honest with you. But yeah, feeling a lot better today. My tooth pain totally gone.
Still?
Yeah.
It's still feeling good.
Yeah. I've got no pain in it whatsoever. It just stopped that night that Sandra did the healing on me. And you know what I mean? A year ago, if somebody would have said to me, you know, like, oh, bit of natural healing, bit of spiritual healing, try that, I'd have told them they were nuts, you know what I mean? But it worked. And it's like, I felt instantly, a little benefit. But then as over that night then, which was a night first night I'd slept properly in 2 years.
Wow, really?
And yeah, so wow, blew my mind. That absolutely blew my mind.
Well, we're so happy to hear that. I mean, you know, because that's part of what we do. You know, I mean, you know, we're frequency healers, and you know, we do a couple other things as well. But I mean, you know, that's one of the big things that we are strong believers in, and I know that you are as well. I mean, everything is frequency, and at this time on this planet, frequency is just going crazy.
Yeah, it's up and down. We went through a shift on last Sunday, and then we went through another one on Wednesday, and we went through another one yesterday. 3. And I'm like, okay, can this pass, please, by Tuesday? Can we get through this? It just feels very, it's really intense. It's intensifying. And so a lot of people are...
As well, a lot like it didn't quite go as it should have done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've felt ill effects. Every time we shift, I feel ill effects. I get loads of reports back from the community that, you know, like, oh, I'm feeling a bit uneasy today. Have we had a shift? You know, in the old days, in the old world, if you felt a bit off, you just thought I'm getting a bit of an illness or something. Now you think, oh, right, I've moved to a different world. I mean, it's just bizarre now. And, you know, like go back, 3-4 years, and I didn't even think it was possible to, you know, like, I didn't even believe in the spiritual side so much of stuff. I was a skeptic about everything like that, and this whole thing's just changed my world. The Mandela effect itself is just, it's the most mind-blowing thing. It's the biggest thing that will ever happen to us in our lives or in anybody's lives.
Well, we found you because we happened to watch one of Chris Geo's videos, and it's like, okay. So we watched it, and Alan and I were kind of playing around, and we're like, hey, let's try this, because it was on time. And you had put that video, a video out December 21st, this past Christmas. And So we had watched it and we brought up a stopwatch and we were counting, and Alan and I were like baffled. Our faces, we were in shock, Scott.
Yeah, we
really
thought,
were.
okay, let's give this a shot here, because we hadn't done that in forever.
Yeah.
So we thought,
it's not the sort of thing you do, is it? You do it when you're younger.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting trick to learn. And then you use that philosophy for the rest of your life. And right, from now on, I'll count 1,000, 2 1,000, or 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. And you accept that's going to be the seconds because it worked as a child.
Right.
And then when you do try it again, it's like, something's changed here.
When we've done it with someone, and I do 1,000 and Alan does 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. So we were kind of trying it out with our clients and going, guys, you got to see this. This is just phenomenal, because no matter how fast you would do it, you just could not keep it. We were only doing 15-second increments.
Right.
And you couldn't do it fast enough and keep up, and you would gain 5 seconds every 15. So you're gaining 20 seconds every minute. And so we're really having a lot of fun, and we're like going into Scott's YouTube and watching the live chat and different things like that. And we hit that shift. And we were working with a lady, and we said, hey, you got to try this. We hadn't talked to her. And she tried it, and she goes, oh, it's spot on. And Alan and I are like, no way. We've been doing this all week. It is not on spot. And we tried it, and it was on spot.
And it was.
And we were like, what? And so we've noticed over this week, there are certain times when it does speed up and other times when it goes back down, and it gets exactly 15 seconds. So we're like seeing this fluctuation going, holy moly, this is crazy.
Almost for like a lack of a better way to put it, it's almost like one day you're going to be in sync with it, the next day you're going to be out of sync, and it just kind of fluctuates back and forth. Are you kind of finding that too, Scott, or what?
The thing that I found with that is in the night before last night's show, I didn't do one last night, but the night before, I did the countdown test. I put the watch up to the screen, did the countdown test, and I got the exact same. It was absolutely spot on to what it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
In the old world, like it was literally counting down at the correct rate, and I was really.
Where's Scott?
Oh, we lost Scott. Mom. Hello, Mom.
Mom, get Scott.
Beam Scotty back up, Mom. We lost him.
Anyway, we had been experimenting with this, and we went into Scott's chat room, and have really been watching people. There are a lot of effects that are going on in the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is showing us things beyond anything we can comprehend.
I'm about.
Okay, we got you back now?
The gremlins are in again.
Oh boy, here we go. The energy's starting up already.
You know what? We expected.
It's part of our life.
Scott, you had a very, very interesting Mandela effect that just occurred just a few days ago. And we were like, what? We're doing a D.
I think I can guess what you're going to say.
Needless to say, it kind of freaked Mom out, didn't it?
The door, our front door changed.
And if you go in and take a look at his front door, the front door is blue, but he has stained glass. So a lot of people have stained glass on their front door. He has blue, green, red, door. It was really pretty. And his mom went down. She got this intuition to go to the front door, and she did and opened it.
Go ahead, Scott. Pick it up from there.
She was sat at a laptop, and she'd had quite a big sort of moment, or Mandela moment, as I like to call it, a few days before, when a video that I did was with my mum wearing this wizard's wig. Me and my friend who we do all this Mandela stuff together. We research it together. Mandela affected. He'd gone and bought some wigs off eBay and some pipes just to have a laugh on one of the shows. And so the live stream starts and there's two wizards sat there, you know. So we called it the wizard's wig. And my mum was trying it on while I was doing one of the live streams. It was just after I'd done one of my live streams. And so I was filming it and I said, my mum's trying on the wizard's wig now. I'll go around the corner and, like catch her out with it sort of thing. And so I said at the start of the video, I said, she's trying on the wizard's wig. Now, she noticed that video changed after we'd uploaded it. And after a few people had watched it as well, because a lot of people confirmed that it had changed. And instead of saying wizard's wig at the start, it just now goes, she's trying on the woo, and then there's a gap, and then wig. And the word wizard had completely disappeared out of the video. So she was still shook up from that. And that was a realization, because she still had a little bit of doubt as to whether the Mandela effect truly could be happening. It's one of those things that you're in denial for a long time when you first come across it, because what's happening is technically impossible in our understanding of the world.
Yeah.
So she just got this urge when she was sat at the laptop a couple of days after that to go and check the front door. And so she got up, went out and had a look, and there's two patterns on the door. There's what looks like a Wi-Fi signal, strangely enough. Now that was blue on the tip of the triangle, and then it's got sort of a band underneath the rounded triangle, which was green, like a light green or a pale green, and then around that was an orangey red. Really, it looked red, but when the sun shone through, it sort of diluted the colour a little bit, and it went quite orangey. It's quite nice though. And now there's just the blue part left. The green and red parts have gone completely, just totally disappeared now, and never existed. Old photographs, they're just this blue door. It's a very plain door. She's more angry than anything because this is the door she'd have picked. It's dull. It's not got all the bright colours on it that she likes. So.
Scott said, I'm going to buy paint and painting the door back the way it was.
I was out yesterday looking, Sandra. I went into Manchester to try and find some glass paint, which I can't find anywhere. I assume it still exists because we've got blue paint on there.
Oh, boy.
But I just couldn't find a shop that sold it. But, I mean, to be honest, in Manchester now, the shops are just the same, one after the other. There's no variety. You used to be able to go out into your local town and whatever, your big city near you or whatever, and you'd get the whole variety of shops. You go into Manchester, and there's about 3 different types of shops now, and most of them just sell food.
Wow.
There's no sort of variance down there now, so I'll have to go to a more towny sort of.
Yeah.
Find an old-fashioned DIY shop or something.
Well, one of the main reasons that we wanted to have you on, Scott, number one, because after, our initial introduction to you through Chris Geo and that snippet of the video he used, we started checking you out a little bit. And I think that we thought it was really fascinating because, kind of like your bio, you were just a typical guy. I mean, you weren't an author, you weren't into metaphysical or spiritual or conspiracy or Mandela or anything. I
was always into conspiracy.
Okay, well, yeah, but the general idea was, you're just kind of run-of-the-mill guy, and you know, you were just bopping along life, doing your thing, and all of a sudden you came across. I mean, what kind of got you interested in? I mean, what happened with Mandela that really got your attention, and when did you, for lack of a better word, convert? I guess.
Realize. I like to call it coming to my realization.
Yeah, that's a better word. Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, I watched a channel called Bluebeard 2011, and I watched that well before the Mandela effect. And he used to look at things like it'd go on Google Maps and show the North and South poles when we had a North Pole and Northern ice cap. And he'd show what he thought could well be hollow Earth entrances and stuff like that, because I was looking for everything at the time. I was looking into flat Earth, hollow Earth, pear-shaped Earth, apple-shaped Earth, whatever NASA announced that week as the official shape of the Earth. But the hollow Earth got me quite interested at one point. And so that's what I was looking on his channel for specifically. And he just did a video one day, probably going back 3 or 4 years now, where he was showing the Google, the Google Earth map, and South America had moved east. It was like not just a little bit. Mm-hmm. It was like what was formerly directly below America was now out in the ocean. It was really straight, and the Mexico and all the lands connecting in the middle there. The Panama Canal changed. It used to go east to west. Now it runs north to south. And I was absolutely gobsmacked by this, because I look at the world map a lot. I love just looking around the world on there and trying to spot things on Google Maps. Unusual things or stuff you see from the air, like finding crop circles, just anything of interest on Google. I've looked at it so much in my time, and so to see that it was instantly different to what I knew very well, and then as I got deeper and deeper into it, I realised Australia had moved upwards. It used to be sort of down under, hence the name.
Yeah.
Now it's quite far up. It's practically on the side of the globe, and I'm using my fingers as quotes when I say globe. I don't know. I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a globe earther. I don't know what Earth is we live on. I don't know what the shape is of it, but I know that the maps that we see represented are supposedly quite accurate, although there's debate even on that as to whether, because certainly England was represented a lot bigger when we drew the maps.
But of course,
I assume it's a man that drew them, But the whole geography of the world had changed, and that was the first big thing for me. And I was in shock with it. I went into literal shock with it, because something had happened that was absolutely impossible. I don't even believe in land drift when they say continents drift around the planet, because we've got a tunnel between us and France here, and that would have torn apart if things were drifting away from each other.
That's a very good point, though. Yeah.
Yeah, the bridges had just collapsed and tunnels had caved in because everything was moving so far apart. There's even a tunnel between England and France from, I think, the 1700s or the 1600s, and that's still intact. So, and they used to say that the continents drift at the same rate that your fingernails or hair grow.
Oh, wow.
Many times since they said that, and that tunnel's still not collapsed,
Yeah, it kind of blows that one, if you will, out of the water, pardon the pun.
Yeah. And so, and yet I'm there witnessing continents drift like overnight. there was shifting hundreds of thousands of miles even. The shape of places changed. I always learned there was 52 states in America, and there's 50 states in America. I think Columbus was one because Columbia. I can't remember if it's called Columbus or Columbia. I can't remember, but knowing the actual states of America is something I never learned. It's not something we learn in England in schools, but we learn the number. We learn there's 52 states, and that's why there's 52 stars on the flag, which is the case here, but we learned the very basics like that. Now, I do appreciate that a lot of education we're given is wrong, and you find things out later on where you think, oh, right, well, that's just because that's how we understood it. But to count the states wrong is quite a big mistake for somebody to have made, So for me and a lot of people, we've always known it had 52 states. And then a lot of people sort of say, from outside the community who come in trying to understand what's going on, and they'll say, well, are you counting Puerto Rico and things like that? And it's like, well, I don't know what I'm counting because I don't know what all the states were. I just remember the number.
Yeah.
There's a lot of songs out there as well. I did a video where I showed a lot of songs where they mentioned 52 states in America.
Now that's really odd because I had not heard that until you about the 52 states. But I tell you what, we're going to pick this up on the other side. We got to hit a break right now. We've got Scott Harrison, loves the Mandela effect. Yes, we have an alien on our show. Absolutely. And we're going to be back with more with Scott on the other side. So hang tight. We're TwinFlame Fine Fire on Truth Frequency Radio. Right back at you.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
And we are back, 1-833-TFR Live. The phone number, if you'd like to be a part of the show today, that's 833-837-5483. And joining us today, Scott Harrison does a lot of just good YouTube video chats. I mean, we really do like Scott's YouTube videos when he goes live. He's got such a good crew on there.
We just keep it playing in the background so we can hear what's going on, and it's you have an amazing group of people that come together. They're not afraid to ask anything, and
he's so accommodating.
Yeah. And Alan's like, there's something about his voice.
There's just something about this show that, and I mean, it's. I don't know, in a weird way, it's just kind of comforting. I mean, it's just like being around a bunch of friends, even though you don't have any idea who these people are. We have no idea who these people are, but I mean, there's just something very warm and familiar about it. Yeah.
I think that comes from the fact that we've all got one thing in common, and it's that none of us feel like we belong in this world. This just doesn't feel like our world at all. Well, it isn't our world. And it's the one shared that we'll disagree on so many things in there. Things like flat earth, or things like, are they real aliens? And I always point out to them, no, we're the aliens. We ain't from here, But it's such a tight-knit community in that we've got one thing in common that grounds us all. And that's that, we've moved timelines, realities, worlds, whatever it is we've moved across. It's the one thing that bonds us together, and we just people don't know their own families anymore. They don't recognise their own kids, their own parents, their own siblings. It's like people seem to have changed around us, which it's not the case. We've, jumped into the body. Our consciousness has jumped into the body of somebody that was living a life here with them. Before last Sunday's shift, I'm very unsociable. I don't do Facebook normally. I don't even get back to people generally. People don't bother ringing me most of the time because they know I just won't return the call. I hate the social aspect of stuff, and I have done for about 4 or 5 years, which is about when all this stuff really started happening. But all of a sudden, after Monday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, my phone starts beeping, and I'm getting message after message of people that I know, and know I'm not that talkative, and no, I don't do sort of Facebook instant messenger and everything. Suddenly I've got this app on my phone and they're all saying hello to me. So the me that was here before was quite sociable. He sounds like quite a nice fella, but it's really strange to jump into that world where I'd left that social aspect of it. I don't know. I don't like little talk, and that's what you generally tend to get when you talk to, oh yeah, did you see that on TV last night and stuff like that. I don't watch TV, so I just feel out of place with conversations with people now because I just don't. I'm not interested in anything that the mainstream puts out there.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting you say, because I had two things here. Number one, have you always been that way? And number two, we've kind of gotten that way as well. But have you always been that way, Scott? Kind of like on the antisocial part?
I used to be the social icon of a party. You know what I mean? It was like
I can see that.
And I miss it a little bit, But yeah, I was always like, I used to have like 3 phones just so that I could keep up,
Oh my God.
I could be texting on one, Facebooking on another, and on a call on the other one. I was dead into the social side of it, and all of a sudden, I just didn't feel I was relating to people the same, or they weren't relating to me the same. So something had changed, and this was before I knew about the Mandela effect, but it had changed where I just didn't have anything in common with people that I'd had stuff in common with for years, and enjoyed many a conversation with. All of a sudden, I just wouldn't enjoy the conversation with them anymore. And that is because, and as I say, at the time I didn't realise, but I realise now, is that we'd shifted. Work changed completely for me. My work, I'd go in and they'd say, "Why aren't you doing such and such a thing?" And I'd be like, "Well, we don't do that. That's not part of the job." And they'd be like, "You've always done that. Just, do it," kind of thing. Things like filling in reports. Pointless reports that just took up your time and nobody ever read. It was like, and I'd say, why are we doing this? This is silly. I've got too much to do to do, like a 15-minute report that nobody's even going to read. And they'd be like, just do it. It's what we've always done. And I was really confused because it wasn't what we'd always done. I knew it wasn't. And if they'd tried to sort of bring that in, I'd have been arguing it at the time they was bringing it in, saying, look, we've not got the time for this. But suddenly it had been a rule forever. Employment laws changed. They decided to change our contract one day. And I goes up to the union rep and I said, look, Dave, this is illegal what they're doing. I'm not going to accept the new contract. What they're going to do? And he said, well, they can sack you. I said, what do you mean they can sack you? They cannot change your contract of employment without your agreeing. And if you don't agree to it, they've not got the right to sack you. We've got more rights than that. And he said, well, that's what I thought as well. He says, but I've been on the phone to the solicitors all morning and they're reading the laws and, making sure everything's being done above board. And they said, everything's being done above board. They can just sack you if they want to.
Wow.
Now, that was one of the big realizations for me that something had seriously changed. And I struggled on at working there. I mean, I worked there for about 15 years altogether. And the last 4 years that I was there it was just horrendous. It was just amongst people I barely recognized. Mm-hmm. A lot of my friends who saw the effects, they were feeling the same as me. But even when I started to describe to them, like the Mandela effect and stuff, once I started to get a bit of an understanding myself, it was just too mind-blowing. It was just too unbelievable for them. And I find this with a lot of people. It's too much to accept that the whole of reality can change. And they'll put things down to, oh, well, it's just changed. One of my friends drinks Coke Zero. And I said, what's the drink called you drink, Oasis? And he says, Coke Zero. I says, right. I gave him because you bought stuff on little plastic cards. It was the step before putting the chip in your hand, they put it into the card. Mm. And so I gave him my card. I went, right, well, go and treat yourself to a bottle of Coke Zero, mate, from the machine. So he goes, and he comes back with it. And, he's pleased. He's just got a free bottle of drink. Yeah. And I said, what's the name on it? And he looks at it and he reads it and he says, Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. And I said, right, and what's it actually called? And he's like, well, I've always called it Coke Zero, but I must have got it wrong.
Like, I remember Coke Zero.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, never existed now.
Wow.
And that was product changed. That changed from day one. It's just been done differently here. A different person decided on the final name of it or whatever. But Coke Zero itself has never existed now. But even that, the one thing that I thought, I'll get him on this, I'll convert him. He was still like, oh no, well, I just must have got it wrong. And so much of that, people just accept that they've got bad memories. They'll be absolutely positive on a memory when you ask them. And then when you say, oh no, it's this way now, they're just like, oh right, well, it's like they have a download. Oh right, well, fine, that's the way it's always been. I just got it wrong. But he was positive a minute ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And no, I think that's what we do, especially, because we were, like I said earlier, we were looking through a lot of these Mandela effects. And oh my God, I had no idea that there were so many of them because, like we were talking in the break a little bit, the one that got me going was, and I think it was a guy on the Kev Baker show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a guy on the Kev Baker show, and this is what I really related to because I'm just a classic rock guy. That's what I've always listened to. I listen to other stuff as well, but I mean, the main crux of my music that I listened to was classic rock. And this guy got on Kev's show, and he was basically telling the story about his, what was it? The Who Live in Leeds, I think it was, album. And he bought it when it first came out. And he was swearing up and down that the spelling of Pete Townshend's name now had an H. He swore, just like I did, because this is what I totally identified with. It's just like, no, it didn't have an H in it when I was growing up. It was Pete, Townsend.
The Who logo as well has changed. The way the letters go into each other and stuff. Lots of changes like that. And you see, the first thing I ever noticed was brand names changing. That took over for quite a bit of my life because like the first ever Mandela effect that I myself spotted that I wasn't sort of searching around on the because when this first happened, I was searching around channels left, right, and centre trying to find out what on earth was going on. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing I noticed was Kit Kat had lost its dash, the Kit Kat chocolate bar. Mm-hmm. And you'd ask people, you'd say, like, what's the Kit Kat bar look like? What's the front look like? And they'd say, like, well, you've got the circle and you've got Kit and then the dash and then the cat. And then you point out to them there's no dash in it anymore. and they just sort of say, "Oh well, that's that's the way it's always been, then, isn't it? I just got it wrong. I misremembered." Which, when people bring up, oh, it's false memory or stuff like that, which is what the X-Files tried to do with their episode on the Mandela effect.
Mm-hmm.
It annoys me because, fair enough, if you don't trust your memory, then that's your problem. You know what I mean? If you think your memory is that bad that you've misremembered a certain percentage of things, but you've remembered everything else right, then, I've not got time for those kind of people that just live in denial of it all. It's just annoying when they sort of say, well, it's always been that way. Look, Google it. It's always been like that. It's like, well, yeah, it has here. I have solid memory on this. I don't have a solid memory on everything. There's every effect out there that people have reported. There's only so many that I can say, oh, yeah, I know that's changed. There's things right. I know I don't know. And I won't stand there and say, oh, yeah, this has changed, if I don't remember it myself, if I've not had some experience. I'm certain, I'm absolutely positive, 1,000,000% sure that males did not lactate back on Sagittarius. We did not produce milk from our breasts.
Now I lost it on that one, man. I got
it. Now we can produce milk from our breasts, which is just bizarre to me. Absolutely bizarre. It's a very firm memory that, I would have known.
Well, yeah.
I think it's really funny because you were talking in your chat room about the blue bees. And what is really bizarre is Alan and I remember very distinctly when we first came together that they were talking about the bees getting into
in France, in Paris, I think it was.
Yeah, getting into the dye from an M&M factory, and they were producing blue honey. And
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after you mentioned the blue bees, I thought, I haven't heard of a blue bee. So I go and I look for the blue honey, and there's a company called Blue Honey, but it doesn't have blue honey. But now there are pictures everywhere of blue bees. Okay, well, I remember the blue honey, not the blue bees.
Not the blue bees, though.
Yeah. And the thing about the blue bees as well is, depending on where you look up the information, some places say that they're native to North America, and then you'll find another website where they talk about them in Australia. So it's like when they first find this information out, that, oh, right, okay, but they're only in North America. And then somebody else will print an article that they're only in Australia. We wouldn't have this much confusion. We know what animals exist. We know where they are. And all of a sudden, there's thousands of new discoveries, and people are just sort of saying, oh, we never discovered them before. We've explored the world. If they were finding them in deep oceans, I could kind of understand. Maybe we hadn't seen them because we've not explored the oceans as much as they say we've explored space, Mm-hmm. But they're finding these things on populated islands. You mean like New Zealand? They're finding new creatures there all the time. These people would have seen them. They would have noticed them. With Australia being a lot closer to the islands above it, like, your Papua New Guinea and all that sort of area, there's actually kangaroos on other continents now, rather than just Australia. In my world, it was just in Australia.
Yeah.
The kangaroo's tail is now counted as a leg. It used to be a counterbalance. When they jumped through the air, they'd use the tail as a counterbalance. Now they actually use it to jump with. It's part of the jumping mechanism. And they call it a third leg on the kangaroo now. It was never referred to as that,
I was like you. I always thought it was just kind of used like a rudder, like something to help keep their balance and stuff.
Yeah, just a counterbalance. Like monkeys, when they jump from tree to tree, they use the tail as a counterbalance. It was all supposed to be like that. And now it's not. They don't use it in the air for that at all. They just use it to help spring off at the start. At least, and this is what you have to say with everything now, at least it was that last time I checked it.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, as opposed to the last time I looked, this is the way it was, you know.
Yeah.
And if it had been that way the whole time, I mean, you know, there are certain things, you know, like the blue bees and the third leg with the kangaroo. You know, I realize that all animals evolve, you know, they adapt. I mean, we do. You know, every animal on the planet is slowly evolving, and that is not just going to occur over one generation.
No, or overnight.
No.
So these things tend to occur.
Yeah.
But also, I don't believe in that whole evolution track myself. To me, it doesn't make sense that... I think we evolve in a completely different way to what they're saying. I think we evolve in understanding, but I don't think like we came from fish and then the fish came onto land. That whole evolutionary story to me just doesn't make sense at all, because if you take a fish out of water, it dies, it drowns or suffocates, whatever we call it, comes out of water. And if we go in, we drown. But how would it have, I mean, did it just come out of water for an hour, for a day, one day, and then go back in? And, you know, it just doesn't make sense that something could go from living in water, relying on gills, to suddenly having lungs. That has to be an instant shift for something like that to happen, because it just wouldn't survive the process otherwise.
Right.
And with this Mandela effect, I see that we shift and our anatomy changes. Our skulls, we have holes all over the inside of our skulls now, in our skull bone, where nerves come through. And there's certain places underneath your eyes where you can press down and you can feel these holes. But if you press too hard, you're blocking the nerves and you get sort of a numb feeling in your face. This is something that never happened for me. The eye sockets have completely changed. They overhang more at the top now, where your brows are. They come out more than they used to, and underneath those bones there come out. Now, these are changes that happen literally overnight. You go to bed, you get up the next day, and the anatomy is different. The organs keep moving around. The stomach, for you know, all my life, my stomach's been in my belly. And it now where your belly is just intestines, and your stomach is up below, just below your right lung, and the liver's in front of it, going right across now. The kidneys are also up in there. I don't know how it all fits into your rib cage now, but for me, the kidneys used to be down at the side of you, and you know, sort of about halfway around, but close to your back. And it, if you had a pain down there, you knew it was either your kidneys or something like that. Now, if you have a pain down there, it's your intestines. And I mean, we was interviewing a biologist in Manchester Museum, and we'd asked for a specialist on CERN because we wanted to ask some questions on CERN, because Manchester University are involved with that. And so they sent this guy up, and we was asking him questions about particle colliders, how many there are, because there was 3 back on Sagittarius. There was one in San Francisco, one in CERN itself, and one in China. Now there's something like 20 to 30,000 of these large hadron colliders across the world.
Right.
So we wanted to ask this guy about this and how many he thought. We do this. We go out and interview the unaffected and just try to get different perspectives on stuff. So I said to him, oh, sorry, we was asking about it, and he said, you know, I don't really know much about that because I'm more a biologist. So we're like, all right, no worries then, forget CERN. Biology. Where's your heart? And he was like, well, it's kind of over to your left. I said, no, it's in the middle, mate. I said, where's your kidneys? What's a kidney punch? He said, oh, kidney punch, where you punch somebody in the sides and they go down. Boxers use it, and you know, like street fighters will use it. And I said, but where are your kidneys? And he was like, well, Oh, yeah, well, they're up here, and pointed to the inside of his rib cage. I said, so how does a kidney punch work then? And this is where his knowledge of the old world and the new world was getting all confused, and he really didn't know what to say or do, and suddenly he had to go, as they do, you know. Oh, sorry, I've got to get on now, and off he went.
Yeah.
But it's like people have got mixed memories because they're living in this world without realising that they've changed to this world, they've moved to this world somehow, and I don't know how that process happens still. It's our consciousness moves from one reality to another. All this week I felt that the move hasn't either gone right or it hasn't finished, because I feel like I'm slipping in and out of not so much realities, but just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like I'm either stationary and a wave's moving around me, putting me in and out of slightly different frequencies, or that I'm moving up and down sort of a sine wave type thing, and in and out. But it just, things don't feel right. I mean, like when I did that time experiment the other day, like I say, at the start of the show, it matched perfectly to the seconds I was counting, and was all a bit shocked by it. And then all of a sudden, later on in the show, it was out of sync again. And that's exactly how I feel at the moment, is that I'm sort of going in and out of, it's very hard to explain, but.
No, we totally understand what you're saying, because, I mean, we've been seeing that as well, pretty much throughout this whole week. I mean, we notice it to a lesser degree before that, but this week, something, and we totally agree with you, starting a week ago today, things started getting really hinky.
It was strange because Scott has very blue eyes. And so we were in Skype with him, and I'm looking at his eyes. Alan's looking at his eyes, and we're like, you need to move closer to the screen. And the closer he got to the screen, we realized he had bright, bright green eyes.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, we got to snap a picture of this. So we do have a picture of his green eyes. And then the other night he done the same thing in his group, and they were back to blue. We seen it. And it was like, what? What is going on? So even a slight change or a huge change in people's eyes and different things that are going on. I mean, we're experiencing so many Mandela effects. But are we noticing them? Are we really looking?
Or are we doing like what Scott says a lot of people like to do, say, well, I just remembered it wrong, and just move along. Nothing to see here, just move along.
Yeah.
There's too much of there. There really is, because people are ignoring the signs in front of them. And people sort of say to me as well, you know, like, well, why would they change a product? You know, what's the point of changing Kit Kat? What's the point of changing the name of a product? And I think those things are just consequential because different decisions were made here. But it could also be the little signs of stuff that was important to you in your childhood, you know, that you will have a good memory on, because we all remember the sweets we ate as children. We remember what they tasted like. We remember what they smelled like. And we remember what they looked like. And I think these are just to sort of jog you and say, look, this is changed. This isn't just a bit of an odd memory you've got. This has changed totally.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, great way to leave it for this hour. We're going to be back with more in the other hour with Scott Harrison. Does a great YouTube channel. You need to check him out, Scott Harrison. And we're going to be talking about more Mandela effects, shifts. I mean, you name it. We're going to be hitting it with Scott and Mom, the on-scene producer. We'll be back with more on the other side. TwinFlame Divine Fire on Truth Frequency Radio.
Hi, everyone. It's Chris Gio here, founder of...
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. We are TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Bringing you the highest vibes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Would you please check your ideas and opinions at the door?
This is TwinFlame Divine Fire.
I say check it at the door advisedly because you can pick it up again when you go out if you feel unsafe without it.
Coming at you on a Sunday afternoon.
All there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it.
Right here on Truth Frequency Radio.
The only thing that will solve stuff is by understanding who you truly are, working out what you truly want, living from the heart, and structuring a framework in life so that you live your passion.
Truth Frequency Radio. Your protection from deception.
And we're back to TwinFlame Divine Fire on Truth Frequency Radio. Our call-in number is 1-833-TFR Live. That would be 833-837-5483. And we have Scott Harrison on with us today. We've been checking out his channel very closely for a little while now, once we got introduced to him. And we've been kind of bopping around in a couple of different subjects: Mandela effect, shifts, frequency. We're going to be getting into that. Schumann resonance, of course, that's been a real big deal going on here lately. And we actually, off the air, got into a very interesting little discussion about something that I know Scott remembered one way and we kind of remembered the other way. So, I mean, wow, these Mandela effects, I mean, they can really get you to questioning a lot of things. It almost seems like the water gets really muddied up on a lot of this. And I don't know, Scott, what do you think on this, man? I mean, do you think that there's some of this stuff that actually does happen, which we have no doubt that it does, but then some of it might be, do you think that any misinformation is getting thrown in there to maybe get people to actually ask the question, you know, is this really true, or am I just losing my mind?
I think there's a lot of misinformation being put out, and this is something that another channel I work bigly with, Mandela Affected, we're trying to weed out the shills. We've had a few come in. You get some trolls, but you get actual shills, you know. And certainly after the X-Files episode aired in America, suddenly there was this huge push of people trying to just cause a little bit of ruptions within the community. And so we have to sort of weed them out. There's also some people out there that just want to make videos and they found an interesting subject. They might not necessarily believe in the Mandela effect, but, you know, it's not something you believe in. It's something you either know or, you know, is you know if something used to be different. You don't need other people to confirm it for you, but it's just reassuring when other people do, you know. Yeah. And you realise, oh, okay, I'm not crazy, because I thought I was crazy at the start of this. I was going to the doctors and telling them, you know, look, this stuff's changed. My body's changed, and I wouldn't honestly recommend going to your doctors and saying that, because
they may give you a nice white coat.
Yeah, room and board and meals and psychotropics.
I think one of the weirdest, and I do mean the weirdest, Mandela effects. We really have to pay close attention to what's going on around us, because I remember going and having my tattoo done on my arm, and my daughter done it and does beautiful work, and she's very meticulous, and she done a spider on my arm, a black widow. Okay, it's one of my power animals. I'm not a spider lover, but it was, at the time, it was an amazing awakening, and I wanted a spider on my arm. So she done beautiful work. It's got shadows, it's got everything. And I remember looking at it and thinking, oh my God, she done such a beautiful job on it. And it was a couple years later, we were sitting up at the cabin, and we're sitting on our dock and on the deck, and a friend of mine is sitting next to me, and she's known me a long time. And I had a sleeveless shirt on, and she looked at me and she goes, San? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, why do you only have 7 legs on that spider? And I'm like, I don't have 7 legs. It's got 8. And she's like, no, it has 7. And so I go inside and I count the legs on the spider, and it had 7. And I'm like, this had 8. My daughter is too meticulous to put a 7-legged spider on my arm. And sure enough, I have 7 legs on the spider on my arm. And we had a client who actually started seeing 7-legged spiders, and we're like, what is going on?
In France now, she started, and we started getting pictures left and right
of 7-legged
spiders from this one person in particular.
And
all over the place.
And that really drew our attention to it. But we started paying very close attention to small things. And so, Alan, I think we told Scott about this. Alan had a bracelet that he bought in Woodland Park, Colorado. And it was braided leather and hemp. And you tighten it with strings, and then you loosen it by pulling it apart. And he got out of the shower, and he had sat his bracelet down so that it didn't go into the shower and get wet and expand and contract. And he went to put it on, and the hemp string on it was almost to the point where it was going to break. And he came out and he said, look at this. I haven't even had it that long, and there's this slit in it. And I said, well, I don't know where mine is, but I'll find it, and you can wear that, because if you put that on and try to tighten it up, you're going to break the string.
Yeah, I was afraid to even touch it at that point. It was so bad.
Yeah, we were going to bed that evening, and the next morning I was looking for mine, and he picked his back up where he had it sitting, and he goes, did you switch this out last night?
I couldn't tell the difference.
And I'm like, no, I haven't even found the one. I had an identical one, and I haven't even found it yet. And maybe it got switched out. So let me look. And I find mine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Couldn't tell the difference between the two. It was like nothing had ever happened, Scott.
That slit was gone, and it was near the point where if you even put any tension on it whatsoever, it was going to snap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the last. I'm going back to what you were saying about the spiders with 7 legs there. I noticed on the news that they described scorpions as arachnids a couple of weeks back. And so in the live stream that night, I was out with Mandela Affected, and we just do a stream from the car sometimes, where we're just chatting away and discussing new Mandela effects and stuff like that. And I said, I noticed today in the news that they referred to scorpions as arachnids now. I said, but I've got them, and I sort of got it up on my phone. We was broadcasting from his, and I got it up on my phone, showed the screen, and said, look, they've still got 6 legs, so how can they be classed as an arachnid? They're still an insect. And then all of a sudden, scorpions had 8 legs about a week after that. So it does seem that we get these prompts before stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it's intuition or what, but I mean, it was like my mum with the front door. She got this inclination to just go and check it. She had no reason to go and check the door, but other than this thought came into her head. It is as if certain signs are put there for certain people to see, to help them in their journey and help them accept what's going on. I mean, when we was talking in the break there as well about, petrified wood.
Yeah.
And things like that. Now, we went to the Manchester Museum of, it just used to be called the Manchester Museum, but I think it's of Natural history now, it's called, I think. And we was asking him, for one, the T-Rex dinosaur had changed. It wasn't as big as it used to be. It wasn't as like scary looking or anything. And as we got closer to it, we're looking at it, and it only had 2 prongs on its hands. It used to have a thumb and 3 fingers for me, and now it's just a thumb and a finger. And it just looks, I don't know, it looks quite pathetic now compared to the T-Rex I knew and grew up with, that terrified me. And I was asking this guide in the museum, I said, well, how many fingers do they have, these T-Rexes? And she was like, and she had to turn around and look at it. And then she went, 2. I said, that's not right. I said, a couple have fallen up there, I think, on your display.
Yeah, so, that's kind of the way I remember it, too. Yeah, they had 3 fingers and a thumb. Yeah. Well, even in Jurassic Park, it's just got the 1 finger and 1 thumb now. But she swayed us away from that. She said, oh, right. Obviously, she thought, well, I've got something wrong here. So she swayed us away from that. She said, come and look at this stone tree. And I said, what's a stone tree? She said, well, for years and years, it gets buried underground, pressed down, and it turns to stone. And we were like, I thought, rotting vegetation and that, compressed into coal and oil. I thought that's where that came from. And she went, yes, that's what kickstarted the Industrial Revolution. And we're like, but how if it turns to stone? You're showing us a stone tree, and we're tapping on this tree, it is stone. And she said, I don't know. And obviously she was going down 2 tracks of information here where she knew fossil fuels were made from this process. Oh, so that's what they said. That was the official understanding. But then also she knew that it turned to stone. But she kept saying, well, it kick-started the Industrial Revolution. And we filmed all this. We were filming it all. We showed it on the channel. And we're just totally mind blown. For a minute, we were both speechless, looking at her like, well, how can it have done? But how can stone kickstart the Industrial Revolution? We don't understand. We had stone years ago. That was called the Stone Age, And she just got totally confused, and then said, "You're gonna have to go now because we're shutting the museum early tonight," which happens to us a lot.
Bye-bye, Scott.
Oh,
Gently pushing you out the door, But that was strange as well, because the reason that they said they was closing early that night was to do a seance, and they said, "Oh, we're doing a ghost hunt and we're doing a Ouija board and stuff like that." I said, "You're not allowed to do those things in public buildings." And they're like, "Yeah, we are. It's fine." I said, "No, you're not. You're not allowed to do that in a public building. That was the law back in Sagittarius." Looked into that. Yeah, now you can do. Now you can do satanistic witchcraft wherever you like. It's just absolutely crazy. So we left there and went across the road to the church. We thought, well, at least we'll get a warm welcome in the church. So we goes in there and we're filming sort of all the walls, and they have the depiction of the story of Jesus on there. And the vicar came running across all of a sudden. We'd been in there about 10 or 15 minutes, and the vicar or the priest, whichever one it is in there, came running across. I could hear somebody running up behind me. I thought, what's going on here? Look behind me to see what was going on. And this vicar's running towards me, and he said, "You're going to have to go. You're going to have to go. I'm sorry, you have to leave." I said, "Why? What have we done wrong?" He said, "Oh, no, we've got to close early because the choir are singing." I said, "All right." I says, "At least you're not doing a Ouija board then, like them across the road." So I just left. I was just like a bit in just, why is everyone kicking us out of everywhere? Mandela affected. He's a little bit more, let's say, strong-minded than me in stuff, and there was no way he was going. So he goes up to Mandela Effect and he says to him, look, you're going to have to leave now. And there was a woman praying at the time, and he got her as well. He said, "Come on, you need to leave. Stopped her praying halfway through her prayer and kicked her out the church. And so he stood there and he went, well, can I just ask you a question before I go? And he said, yeah, no problem. He said, what happened to Jesus on the cross? How did they know he was still alive? And he said, oh, well, that he wasn't still alive on the cross. And he said, well, they stabbed him with the holy lance. And he says, wasn't it the spear of destiny? He says, it might have been. This is where he started to get a download. He said, yeah, I think it might have been called both. He says, but anyway, they stabbed him in the left lung. And because he bled blood and water, they knew he was dead. And he's like, well, if you stab somebody and they bleed, then they're still alive. The blood congeals after you've died. That wouldn't have indicated that he was dead. And then he started asking him about the heart. He said, well, where's your heart? He said, well, it's over on your left here, and pointed to his left side of his chest. He said, and I know it's there because sometimes you can feel it bumping. And then he even started to go into, have you ever got a stethoscope and listen to your heartbeat? You can definitely tell it's over the left. Totally 100% confirming that he thought the heart was on the left. Mm-hmm. And now Mandela affected, he's like a chess player. He said, well, how come this depiction of Jesus up here then? And he had a huge statue of Jesus. He said, why is his heart in the middle? And this vicar's looking at this statue of Jesus and his face drops. He's gone pale and he's like, well, I don't know. That's changed. Right, you must go. But please do come back anytime and ask questions.
Just not now. I've had enough of you now. Bye. Yeah. God bless you. Don't let the door hit you in the butt.
Yeah, exactly. And we get this reaction everywhere we go. And we'll just walk into a church, and we've never been so unwelcome anywhere in our lives as we are in churches, which is the one place you'd expect to go in and be able to ask about Jesus. Yeah. If I was a vicar, I'd be thinking, right, that's my customer. This is exactly what we've been asking people to do for years. Come in and ask about Jesus. As soon as you do, door's there, mate. You're back out of it.
Now,
oh my God! At least they weren't having an homage to Aleister Crowley or anything like that. So that was a good thing.
That was after we left.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah, you got me wondering here.
You see the glitches that occur, and I remember Alan and I sitting on the front porch at the house at the bottom of the hill before we moved up on the mountain, and we were both thinking, man, we're going to have to, and this is so silly, we're going to have to get a plunger. We didn't have a plunger in the house.
Yeah, for the toilet.
And we're sitting on the front porch and we're thinking, man, we need to go get one. And as we're sitting there, Alan and I are looking out in the field. There was a trail that ran right alongside the house. And it was just a little path. And it's surrounded by all this grass and a lot of wildlife. We've seen bears and deer and coyotes.
It led to a little trailhead where people would often go and just hike.
Yeah, and they'd go for walks. So we're sitting there one day.
I'm very jealous right now, by the way.
We're sitting on this front porch and we're looking and we're both drawn to a spot in the higher grass. It was by a piece of wood, and I'm like, what is that in the field? And he goes, I don't know, but it's driving me crazy. So we sat there for about 5 minutes. I said, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to walk over. I want to see what this is. And I walk over and I look down, and it's the bottom of a plunger with a tag still on it that somebody had bought, and it was sitting in the field. And I picked it up, and I'm walking back to Alan. My mouth is just wide open, and I'm so befuddled. I can't even figure out what the heck. And I get back over there, and he goes, what is that? And I said, plunger head. Now all we need is a broom handle. We were we were just having this discussion, and we happened to look over, and in a matter of a couple minutes, we were drawn to that, and we're like, okay, is this a glitch? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, who would take a plunger head on their way to a trailhead to go hiking?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It did not fit at all.
Yeah, if you'd have found it near a Walmart, fair enough. You'd have thought someone's dropped it on the way out. What's somebody dragging it up the mountain for?
Exactly. What did you eat before you go hiking? That's what
So we have gotten to the point over the years where we pay very, very close attention to things that are going on around us and what happens. And
you do want to manifest these things, don't you? Because, again, this is something 5 years ago, I'd have thought somebody talking the way I talk was just a complete nutter.
Yeah.
But it honestly feels like we can manifest things now. And, if you want something bad enough, it will find a way of coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up work because I couldn't handle it anymore because just of the way it had changed and the way the rules were all different. The people I was working with were different. A lot of them anyway, not all of them, but most of them were different. They saw me differently. They'd say, I used to be able to relate to you, but you're a bit weird now. And I've always been weird, so it's sort of a badge of honour, that is, being weird. I'm more than happy to be classed as not normal because I find normal people very odd.
We were talking about that on one show too. Not too long ago, we were talking about that as well because you had mentioned it earlier, Scott, about how you just can't relate to people anymore.
Yeah.
Because we go through that too. We hear, like, whenever we go into, whatever store it is, and, some of these people, they don't even know what an inside voice is. They act like they're on a construction site, and they're, I need a 2x4 over here, and they're yelling, and you hear their conversations easily, and you hear the passion and the emotion and everything else in it, and it's just like, out of all the things that are going on now, this is what you choose to get that
passionate about,
crazy over. And we just find it very tedious. I'm not being judgmental or anything, but it just doesn't interest us, the stuff that we hear being talked about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing as well, where you say about being judgmental. For me, the Bible used to say, judge lest ye be judged. It doesn't say that anymore, but in fact, the Bible changes. No, I was an atheist for 35 years of my life. So in terms of knowing the Bible, I personally don't know the Bible very well. There's a lot of certain phrases that have stuck out over the years. I had the Bible read to me as a child in school. We had to pray a lot. I know the Lord's Prayer because I've heard it hundreds of thousands of times in my life. People all around saying it while I stood there with my head up, not praying and trying not to look like I was praying neither, because I was that against it. I was such an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I made the mistake of asking God for a sign. I was sort of on a track where I was becoming a little bit more spiritual, and I realised there was something bigger, something that there had to have been a creator for this world, because it hasn't happened by accident. And I don't know if it's a God, as in, like the big bearded man in the sky we all imagine, or is it a computer simulation, and God is, the acronyms for the name of the thing, grid of destiny. I don't know, but I was on that sort of a path at that time, and I just looked out the window, looked up to the skies, because I imagine that's where he is.
Right.
And I said, right, go on then, God. If you're real, give me a sign. Not something I'd recommend you do, to be honest. I got the
careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah, careful what you ask for, absolutely. And how many times do we hear that in our lives? But all of a sudden, it was like the day after I watched Bluebeard's video, and he was saying, look, South America's up to me. And that's where my path down this whole thing started. And suddenly I thought, right, well, let's not ask for any more signs. take that as a red now. He's there. But it does seem that ask and you shall get does really work. My biggest fear at that time was losing my job, not through all of this. I just because I couldn't handle it anymore. I thought, what if I lose my job and I've got no money and I've got nothing? And it's that fear that keeps us in the matrix and keeps us going to work every day. And like what I realized once I actually decided to give up work, just one day I thought, no, that's it. I can't do it anymore. I didn't go into work. I went down to the doctors, and the doctors said, no, you need some time away and decide what you want to do. It's funny because when I walked in the doctors, I said, I just sat there. I was pale. I was in shock. I was just lost, completely lost. And I just sat there, and they could see that. And they said, what's wrong, like? And I said, I've not gone in work today. And they said, why? I said, I don't know. I can't handle it anymore. And the first words they said was, do you work at British Gas or Asda? And so many people had come in from these two companies. Asda's the English Walmart. And so many people had just been coming in with the exact same thing. I can't handle this anymore. I can't handle where I work. I can't
Well, I tell you what, we'll let you finish that story on the other side. An uncontrolled break on our part. We couldn't manifest it away if we had to. It's here and go. But Scott's going to continue that story on the other side in just a couple of moments. Hang tight. Fire on Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
And we're back, TwinFlame Divide Fire on Truth Frequency Radio. Our guest today, Scott Harrison, Mandela affected. Scott got Mandela affected, and his life has not returned back to air quote normal since. So glad to have Scott on. And when we went into break, you got just like totally interrupted by our artificial intelligence system. Let's just get weird, shall we? But you had gone to the doctor, and continue with that story, Scott.
Yeah, so they actually told me after about 6 months that they said, look, just give up the job, just quit the job, which I've never had a doctor advise that before.
Yeah.
And then put me on, and you'll hear rustling because I'm just getting the box of medication. They put me on sertraline.
Sertraline.
Yeah, which when I looked it up, it's not something really I want to take. But
oh boy.
I mean, I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and I know. I don't trust pharmaceuticals. Having said that, I take aspirin and paracetamol and things like that when I'm in bad pain. But certainly, when I had my teeth done, I was taking quite a lot of paracetamol after that. But I do avoid all pharmaceutical drugs like the plague. If I can get a natural alternative to something, I will definitely do that, because the whole pharmaceutical industry is set up not to make you better, but to keep you ill, because that's how they make the money. They're a business.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think all pharmaceutical industries should be government owned, to be honest with you, so that they're not driving a profit and they're producing stuff. I mean, these pills that cost you, say, $20 have probably cost 5 cents to make.
Wow.
I mean, we used to, it is just one example, we used to sell plasters, Elastoplast type stuff. Now, we used to buy those in bulk, and we'd buy millions at a time, tens of millions or whatever, and you would pay 0.001 cents for each plaster, and then you'd sell a packet of 20 for like the equivalent in America would be about $8, $10, something like that. It was just this really ridiculous high price. Wow. All pharmaceuticals are the same. They're all made from a very cheap base ingredient, and then they pack around it with a lot of aspartame and stuff like that, stuff you just don't want. But that's all packed in there, not to make it into a nice, tidy little tablet, to get those extra ingredients in there, because they could just give you a powder if needs be, and you just take a spoon of powder in your drink or whatever. It's it doesn't have to be this perfect little tablet, but that's just the way they sort of learned to package it up, so that they could put all these harmful things in with anything that's beneficial in there. But you'll also find as well with a lot of pharmaceuticals that the base ingredient, the active ingredient, is just something natural that you could just take on its own. You could get by eating a certain fruit or a certain vegetable or a herb or something like that, You don't need the tablets. You just need to change your diet slightly to accommodate for what you're lacking in. Mm-hmm. Which is something I know most people already know, but we don't practice it. We just go, oh, well, it's easier to go and spend a little bit of money on a pre-packaged product that'll do the job for me. But I hate pharmaceuticals. And, I mean, even cough medicine. There's no reference on a cough medicine bottle that it'll make your cough better, because it won't. They can't cure a cough. Mm-hmm. They try to make it line your throat a little bit so that you get less irritable in there. But cough medicine is one of the biggest cons ever. And that was taught to me by somebody from a certain cough medicine company.
Yeah.
I think Alan wishes he could take cough medicine instead of what I feed him.
We do kind of like a combination of honey and lemon. Sometimes if my throat gets so bad, which isn't very often, thank God, but every once in a while she'll throw cayenne pepper in there as well. And it's unpleasant.
For you.
Yeah, it's unpleasant tasting, but I got to tell you, that stuff works way better than Robitussin or any of that other garbage I used to take.
I've got a good cure you might like.
What's
chocolate? That? Let chocolate melt in your mouth, line your throat.
Oh, yeah, and we just got through a big spate of that. I'm digging your cure a lot more, I'll tell you what.
Forget it. You're getting the old one, because chocolate will just phlegm you up. You know it.
Honey chocolate. Chocolate with a honey cream liquid in it,
Oh, there you go. Don't be raining on my parade here now. Come on. But no, I mean, on this pharmaceutical thing, and yeah, we got a guy in the chat room, and he says it perfectly. We've survived thousands of years or more without pharmaceuticals, and we've done just fine. I mean, you gotta. It kills me whenever, okay, you're going to take something for like a toe fungus, and then they come up with this laundry list of stuff, may cause migraines, may cause an aneurysm, may cause osteoporosis.
It could end up worse than what you started with.
Bubonic plague. Yeah, I mean, God
One of
knows.
the side effects of paracetamol is headache.
Wow.
If you read the label, it says may cause headaches. That's what I'm taking it for,
Mm-hmm.
It might make you worse, this.
What kills me, though, is because people, and we've been taught this. I mean, we have been taught that the more complicated the thing is, the better, because, more thought's gone into it, so they tell us, which means it's been better researched, which means every possibility, but this one that we're presenting you is the way that you're going to get better. And people take it on blind faith. And I'm not saying that doctors are bad. I think a lot of the doctors have very good intentions. But, let's face it, and I'll just go with our FDA, when they're approving stuff left and right, Number one, I don't see how they're testing it that thoroughly, because they say that they're supposed to be going through at least a 2-year trial process to see whether or not it's going to be suitable for public consumption, blah, 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 blah. But then whenever you get these doctors that are just having all these swarms and just tons of different medications thrown at them, outside of their regular work, how are they supposed to actually research and keep up with what's going on their own volition, outside of just taking the FDA's word for it, saying, oh, well, don't worry, we've tested it all. All you've got to do is prescribe it. It's already been tested. It's fine. Nothing's going to happen.
Crystals. Yeah.
You know?
And I believe some medications are good. I really do. But there are some that we
think they're the vast
on blind
minority.
faith.
Yeah.
It's like...
They all contain something in them that they just don't need to have, though, don't they? And that's what gets me. The reason they put them in is so that even if it cures one thing, it'll put you on the path to something else, because they're all in it to make the money. And if they just cured us all, which they could do, they could cure everything. They can cure cancer. There's a patent for the cure on, in the patent database. Everything can be cured. Why don't they do it? Why don't they just cure people? Because they'd be out of business overnight.
Yeah, and well, that's just like, and the most recent example I can think of, and I can't remember the guy's name, but apparently he has like this, I'm wanting to say it was a cure for AIDS or something like that, and he was a cocky little dude. I mean, he was just arrogant, and apparently he was in front of some sort of hearing, and he had taken this medication and made it like, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, so forgive me. I'm just going off memory, which ain't that great. But it was like $1,000 a pill or something. The price was just god awful.
Yeah, and cost what?
Like you said,
cent to make.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there are other.
Wasn't that Max Logan? Was it?
Pardon me?
Was that Max Logan?
It might have been, Scott. I can't remember the guy's name. I know it's been about, I'm going to say around a year since I heard that or so, give or take a couple of months, whatever.
I remember him suddenly getting a stage. I think he was about 12 in his video, and he was explaining the Mandela effect. And it just, I mean, for me, I don't go to a 12-year-old for advice on anything,
Yeah, really. Except maybe how to fix a phone or a computer or something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
How do I play this computer game, but when it comes to my health and well-being, I ain't going to a 12-year-old. But and a lot of people took this guy seriously. His parents, I thought, were pushing him. And, he was just there to... I think they were just looking at a way that they could make money out of him, sort of thing. But I do not trust that kid and his research. I think he's probably about 16 now. And you get a lot of flack when you call somebody like that out. But there's one, you're picking on a child or whatever. But if somebody's going to put themselves on a public platform, I'll point the finger. They're making grandiose claims that he's made free electricity and stuff like that, and it's all what he relied on to produce that electricity was the resonance of the electricity being created in the house around him, which you're paying for. So there's nothing free about it. You paid for the energy, you're just tapping a bit of it out a different way. A lot of the stuff that I don't know why they present somebody like that, because I feel it's as a distraction, so that people will look at him. One thing, he's a cute kid, he's not going to be deceiving us or whatever. But two, just to get them on that platform in the first place, so that they can then come out with something further down the line that they want people to believe who generally they can't reach. The shill's put in place, as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot of that going on at the moment. Yeah. That X-Files episode on the Mandela effect, that was, I mean, the funny thing is, in the background of that, there's actual Mandela effects shown. So they're saying to the people who know and are aware, yeah, we know this is real, but we ain't going to give you a serious platform for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just rip the whole thing apart all the way through it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a movie coming out later on in the year as well on the Mandela effect, and I think that's going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems now that they're trying to twist the understanding of the Mandela effect as it's starting to come into sort of mainstream sight kind of thing, because there's certainly a lot more people noticing my videos now than used to. The odd video will get, like several thousand views. I think the time dilation one's on about 50,000 views now, which is a lot for me. I normally get 200 or 300 people viewing my thousand. The odd ones will get a lot more. That you suddenly get a video that goes out everywhere, but it feels like they're just letting little bits out, but putting their own twist on it to try and I don't know. I don't think they want people realizing that, because this changes your whole understanding of yourself and your own being, your own self-being, because you suddenly go from thinking, if you believe in God, then you're just one of God's creations, living an experience. If you don't believe in God, if you don't go down that path, then you might think you were just brought here purely by chance. But it's all put down to, it's just pure luck that you're here. There is no plan for you. Just live your life. Don't try and be anything. Don't try and achieve things. Just go to work, come home, watch a little bit of TV, go to bed, and then at weekends you can have a bit of fun.
Right.
And they want to keep us in that matrix. But the first thing I realised with the Mandela effect was that you can leave all that. I mean, I've got no money. I've never been so poor in my life since I gave up work, but I'm happy. I don't always sound and look it, but I am. I'm actually happier with my life as it is at the moment, because I'm on an adventure. I'm investigating this whole new world, which to some people it's always been this way. This world, some people are from here, but even those don't investigate their own world, and I just feel like we're held back so much from our true potential because we kept in this little box of you've got to work. It was costing me more to work than I was earning, getting there and back, spending money in the canteen when you were there. Mm-hmm. Just all the costs around going to work. I barely came out with anything on top of it,
Yeah.
And now my last thought is money, because I tend to just get money as I need it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird, because I heard people say this for years, and I thought, well, it's quite a chance to take, you know what I mean? But it's breaking fear and saying, well, actually, I'm giving up work and I'll make my own way in life. And up to now, I've been lucky. Everything's worked quite well. Like I say, whenever I've needed money for something, my computer is nowhere near powerful enough to be doing the streams that I'm doing on YouTube. It crashes halfway through.
Yeah.
And I suddenly got enough money to buy a new computer that is exactly what I needed. And it was just purely by chance that suddenly, we owe you this money. Brilliant. In the bank. And
Love it.
out the bank it went. I spent it, and that happened. That is happening so much to me at the moment, that I get what I need when I need it.
And I think that's what a lot of people are,
as well as physical objects as well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are starting to see that, and I think the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, they understand that we're seeing through this garbage that we've been, force-fed all our lives. And
to enslave us. Yeah.
And they're not digging this at all because, and I always go back to that one clip of George Carlin, and I loved it because it's just like, you know what? There's an exclusive club. You and I ain't in it. They want the people there smart enough to run the machine and produce the product, but not smart enough to question why they're being forced to do this every day.
Yeah. That's why if you've got qualifications, like say you leave university and you've got all these qualifications and stuff like that, you're trained to do a specific thing in life, and you consider yourself an expert in that field. Then you think, well, I've got doctor before my name, so I know what I'm talking about. You'll never pick up another textbook again. You'll never keep up with the current research on it because you think you know it all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sort of positions they put us in, where we think, right, I'm an expert on this, I'm an expert on that, and nobody's going to tell you any different on it. And I think once you get out of that mindset of, I know this, to, well, I know what I was taught on this, but I've also looked into it myself, and that's what they don't want. They don't want people with open minds.
Mm-mm.
They'll keep them people at the bottom of the pyramid because they'll take certain ones up by the looks of things, that are indoctrinated into it, but are also intelligent enough to be able to understand that they can manipulate society for their own gains rather than make themselves better and make everything around them better. It's all about them just making themselves better. You see some attitudes that...
Get a delay.
Yeah, we got a little break up there. Sorry about that.
Alan and I joke all the time. It's like just about the time you think you know it, you know nothing at all.
Yeah. Something comes along that proves you completely wrong.
Yes.
But only if you've got the eyes to see it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because we've been taught to respond, not listen with the intent of understanding. We listen with the intent now to respond, and I think that's conditioning as well.
Yeah, definitely.
You always have to defend yourself no matter what. Stay the company line, toe that line and just, move forward. You're going to force your own way through, and everything that works in nature, we're being taught the exact opposite of how to approach it.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I mean, it's like the doctors used to prescribe cannabis, for instance, until the 60s here, and then all of a sudden, again, going back to the pharmaceutical companies, they realized they could make more money by not curing people properly. And so suddenly doctors were told, right, you don't prescribe this anymore. But they've got all that knowledge about how beneficial it was from beforehand. And then all of a sudden they're told, right, well, it's not anymore. These pills are better. And they just go along with it because that's the consensus. That's the modern way, we've advanced. Seems to me every time we advance, we take a step backwards.
Yeah, exactly. In one way, I think we're advancing because, let's face it, technology is off the chain right now. I mean, if this were to be used the way it was probably intended, maybe not, I don't know, when it first came out, we would all, and I mean all of us, be so much better off. But, like the doctor thing, I always equate, if you take what you go through with your doctor and the pharmaceuticals, apply that to your car mechanic.
Yes.
And I mean, just apply it that way. How many of these people would keep taking their car back to a person that barely kept the car running, or even if it was decreasing in performance, decreasing, to such an effect to where, it'll still keep going, but it's still nowhere the way it used to be. How many people would keep taking that same car back to the mechanic, but yet they keep going back to these same doctors? And they're, again, not bad-mouthing doctors, but trusting in the medical profession and pharma.
Yeah.
They don't do it that way.
No, and it's like if you went to the to the mechanics and he says, look, your engine's running fine, but if I put this salt mix in with the fuel, it'll clean it as it goes around, and you'd be like, no, that'll damage my engine. You don't put salt in there, and yet they put grit salt into your pharmaceuticals to tell you that it'll help send it round your body better. And it's like, well, nobody questions that. They just, fine, okay, doctor. But the doctors don't explain it. A mechanic has to explain what he's doing more than a doctor does.
Yeah. How backwards is that?
Yeah.
Oh
you know,
God.
I mean, and in England here, you know, we have the NHS, which is an absolute disaster. I don't get a choice on what doctor I see. At least with private healthcare like you have in the States, you can pick what doctor you go to. You can say, I don't want this doctor, I want another one, I'm paying for it. We're paying for it over here just in a different way through national insurance, but it's our Obamacare, as you guys probably know it. But
yeah, well, you know, yeah.
But you don't get to pick your doctor. You don't get to question your doctor, and you've no choice on what you get. I do not like this nationalised health system. In a way, I think it's good to have it nationalised because it's not a profit-making industry then. I absolutely think that's better for everything when it comes to health. Nobody should be making a profit out of it. But when your choice is taken away, that's when you know you're not getting good health care. I mean, some doctors are great. Some doctors are open-minded and they'll say, you know, like, look, have you tried just getting out and about more, you know, just rather than prescribe your drugs straight away. Some doctors will sit there here and they'll say, just try getting out and about more. Just try getting a bit of healthy regime, eat healthy for a bit and just see how you go. And this is the sort of advice they were giving me at first, which was really good advice and really did help. And then they get down to the point of where you say, you know, look, I'm not feeling much better though. I certainly don't feel like I can go back to work. That's when they say, right, well, here's the medication then.
Yeah.
They always seem to default back to that. So they start off with some good advice, but then, you've got a limit then. You've took too much of the time up. So they say, well, you know, just have these drugs and stop coming and bothering me then because, you know, they haven't got the time to do it or whatever. Now, if that was private, I'd have as much time as I needed because I'd be paying by the minute or whatever, you know, and at the time. But it comes to nothing if your doctor's only ever learned pharmaceuticals and has never heard of you know, like trying to raise your vibrations naturally, things like that. And they think that's all woo-woo out there stuff, you know.
Yeah. Well, Scott, I tell you what, I hate to do it. This 2 hours has flown by, but we're about done. How can people get a hold of you? I mean, YouTube-wise, just...
Yeah, YouTube. It's youtube.com/Scott.Harrison1977.
Harrison-1977.
Just Scott Harrison, all as one word, 1977.
All right, there you go. We look forward to hearing more from Scott in the very near future, that's for sure. I know we'll be checking him out. We want you to check him out, too. He's just authentic, he's real, and he's walking it, just like all of us. So that's going to do it for us today. We got to get out of here. Chris Everard's coming up next. I'm Alan.
I'm Sandra.
And until next weekend, much love, guys.
Namaste, angels.